Once upon a time, in the quiet village of Umwaka, life moved with a rhythm that everyone knew well. The days were marked by the call of the cock in the morning, the sound of pestles pounding yam in the afternoon, and the laughter of young men and women as they gathered at the stream in the evening. The people of Umwaka were proud of their traditions, and they cherished their great festival which came once every 2 years. This festival was not an ordinary one. It was the day when maidens of the village would dance in front of the elders, the chiefs, and the gods of the land. The dance was more than entertainment. It was a test of purity, strength, and beauty. Every maiden who danced that day carried the pride of her family and the hope of her lineage. The whole village always waited eagerly for this celebration because it was said that spirits of the ancestors also came down to watch. Among the many maidens preparing for the festival was a young woman named Ugochi. She lived alone in a small hut at the edge of the village, close to the thick forest. Some said her parents had died long ago. Others whispered that she had chosen to live apart from her kin. Nobody knew the full truth, and Ugochi herself never explained. What everyone did know, however, was that Ugochi had body that men lose their senses. Her waist was the kind that elders spoke about in low tones, so curvy, so heavy, so strange, that every man who saw her felt both desire and fear. Many young men had tried to be with her, but none lasted. They used her, mocked her, and left her broken, as if a dark curse followed every man who came too close. Still, whenever she passed, their eyes betrayed them. They always turned. One hot afternoon, as the festival drew near, Ugochi went to the stream with her clay pot balanced on her head. The path was quiet, lined with tall palm trees that swayed gently in the breeze. Birds chirped from above, and the soft soil sunk slightly under her bare feet. But behind the bushes, a pair of eyes followed her every step. It was Obinna, one of the proud young men of the village. He had watched Ugochi from afar many times, but that day, something burned inside him. As he saw her waist moving gently with each step, he clenched his fist and muttered to himself,
I swear by the gods of Umwaka, I will touch that waist. No man has done it and lived to speak, but I will not be afraid. She is only a woman, and I am a man. On the day of the festival, when she dances before everyone, I will be the first to hold her waist, and the whole village will know that I am greater than all.
The vow left his lips like smoke from firewood, rising into the still afternoon air. He spat on the ground to seal it, convinced that nothing could stop him. Ugochi, unaware of his hidden promise, bent gracefully to scoop water from the stream. The clear water rippled as she filled her pot, and the reflection of her face looked back at her. For a moment, her eyes darkened, and a faint smile curved her lips. She lifted the pot with ease, turned, and began her slow walk back home, her waist swaying like it carried secrets no one dared to speak out loud. Back in the village square, drums were already being tested for the coming festival. Boys carved masks from wood, elders gathered palm wine for the celebration, and maidens rehearsed their steps in small groups. Laughter filled the air, but beneath that joy, a quiet tension grew. Everyone knew the festival was a day of power. It revealed not only the beauty of the maidens, but also the hidden truths of the land. And so, as the days crawled toward the festival, Ugochi prepared in silence. She did not join the other maidens in their laughter. She practiced her dance alone, under the shade of the moon and the whispering trees. The villagers watched her from afar, puzzled and uneasy, for there was something about her presence that both attracted and unsettled them. But Obinna, he sharpened his vow like a spear. His eyes glowed with pride and desire, and he told himself again and again, on that day I will touch her waist. The festival of Umwaka was only days away, and the village had no idea that this vow would change everything. The day of the festival finally arrived, and the whole village of Umwaka woke before the first cock crowed. From one end of the land to the other, there was noise, laughter, and excitement. Mothers rubbed red camwood on their daughters' skin. Fathers sharpened cutlasses for the ceremonial displays, and the drummers tightened the skins of their talking drums. The air carried the smell of roasted yam, palm oil, and fresh palm wine. Children ran about with palm fronds in their hands, playing and shouting, while the elders sat under the great iroko tree, waiting for the maidens to gather. But far away, Ugochi stood before a small clay pot buried halfway into the earth in front of her hut. She stared at it with eyes that carried pain and secrets. Slowly, she bent down, touched the surface of the pot, and whispered in a trembling voice, "Forgive me, but today they will all see me. Today I cannot hide." The wind blew suddenly, making the dry leaves around her scatter. She lifted her wrapper and tied it tightly around her waist. Her waist was wide, heavy, and curved in a way that made the cloth struggle to stay in place. Then she picked up a white handkerchief, the only thing she carried to the square. By the time she arrived, the festival ground was already filled with people. The square glowed with colors. Red, yellow, blue, and green wrappers danced in the crowd as people shouted greetings and clapped their hands. Drums thundered, flutes sang, and one after the other, the maidens stepped forward to dance before the gods and the elders. When Ugochi entered the square, silence fell like rain on dry earth. Every eye turned to her. Even the drummers slowed their beats as if unsure of how to welcome her steps. Her waist moved once, twice, slowly. Then she smiled faintly, and the drums exploded. "Ugochi! Ugochi!" Voices rose in excitement. But behind the crowd, Obinna stood, his chest swelling with pride. He had not forgotten his vow. His eyes followed her waist, and he clenched his fists tightly. The dance grew hotter. Maidens clapped. The elders nodded. The gods, it was said, were watching too, and Ugochi danced like no other. Her waist swayed left and right, wide and heavy, making the ground itself seem to tremble. She moved with power, but also with something strange, almost unnatural. People whispered, "Her waist is too heavy for her small body. Why does she not sweat like the others? Look at her eyes. They look like they are burning." Still, no one could stop watching. Then it happened. Obinna pushed his way through the crowd. His chest was bare, his wrapper tied loosely around his waist. He shouted in a loud voice,
I, Obinna, son of Nadozie, will be the first to touch Ugochi's waist.
The drum stopped. Everyone gasped. The chiefs frowned. Even the elders shook their heads. "Obinna, do not bring curse upon yourself," an old woman screamed. But Obinna ignored them. His pride was greater than his fear. He stepped into the square, his eyes locked on Ugochi's waist. Ugochi stopped dancing and froze. Her smile vanished, her eyes darkened, and her hand gripped the white handkerchief until it almost tore. For a long moment, silence covered the square. Only the wind moved. Then Ugochi whispered, so low that only Obinna could hear, "Do not touch me." But Obinna laughed, spreading his arms wide. "You are only a woman, Ugochi. I am a man. Today I will prove it." He moved closer, 1 step, 2 steps. The crowd shouted in fear, some covering their eyes, and then his hand landed on her waist. The drums gave a sudden loud crack, as if the gods themselves struck them. Obinna screamed. His whole body shook, as though fire passed through his veins. He fell to his knees, clutching his stomach, his eyes rolling backwards. The villagers shouted in terror. Mothers pulled their children close. The chiefs rose from their seats. But Ugochi only stood still, her eyes glowing faintly red. She did not cry. She did not move. She only whispered again, "I warned you." The next second, Obinna fell flat on the ground, foam pouring from his mouth. His hand, the same hand that touched her waist, had turned black. A cry of horror filled the square. "Chimo, the gods have struck him down. Obinna is dead. Ugochi has cursed him." Ugochi did not dance again. She walked away from the square slowly, her wrapper swaying, her face calm but her heart burning. She knew this was only the beginning. That night, the elders gathered under the Iroko tree, speaking in hushed voices. Some said she must be banished. Some said she must be cleansed. Others argued that she was chosen by the gods. But no one dared to go near her hut. Inside her room, Ugochi sat alone in the dark. She touched her waist and wept silently. She remembered what she carried, the terrible truth hidden beneath her wrapper. She was not like other women. She had no womb, no womanhood, but instead the man's secret part that made her different, cursed, and dangerous. She rocked back and forth, whispering into the darkness. Why was I born this way? Why must I carry the shame? One day I will be loved, but whoever loves me will suffer. And outside in the cold night, the villagers whispered about her. But one thing was certain. After the festival, no man would ever dare to touch her again. Or so they thought. After Obinna's death, the village of Umuaka was never the same. For many weeks, people avoided Ugochi. Mothers pulled their sons away whenever she walked by. Fathers warned their daughters never to greet her. Men whispered songs about her waist, calling her Nwani Oke Aru, the woman of abomination. But Ugochi pretended not to care. She carried her water from the stream, cooked her food alone, and danced at night under the moon where no one could see her tears. Deep inside, her heart ached. She did not choose the curse she carried. She wanted love like every woman. But how could she ever have it? She was born with the body of a woman, but the secret of a man hidden beneath her wrapper. One moonlit night, while she practiced her dance steps in front of her hut, a voice spoke from the shadows. "Why do you dance alone, Ugochi?" She froze, clutching her handkerchief tightly. Her eyes darted into the darkness, and a tall figure stepped forward. It was Chukwudi, the quiet son of a farmer, known for his gentle ways and calm spirit. Unlike other young men, he was not boastful, not arrogant. He worked hard in the farms and sang low songs to himself while cutting palm fruits. Ugochi frowned. "Go back! Do not stand near me! Do you not fear what happened to Obinna?" But Chukwudi shook his head. Obinna was a proud man. He mocked the gods. He touched what he was warned not to touch. That was why he wasted. But I do not come with pride. I come with the truth. Ugochi's chest tightened. "Truth?" she whispered. "Yes," Chukwudi said, moving closer, though carefully. "Ugochi, for years I have watched you, not with desire like the others, but with respect. I know you are different. I see the pain in your eyes, and I am not afraid." Ugochi's hands trembled. For the first time in her life, someone spoke to her without fear, without mockery, without lust. But she shook her head and turned away. "You don't know what I carry. You don't know the curse that follows me." Chukwudi's voice grew firm. "Then tell me. Let me carry it with you." At those words, Ugochi felt her knees weaken. She wanted to believe him, but the memory of Obinna's lifeless body haunted her mind. She ran into her hut and shut the door. But Chukwudi did not leave. He sat outside her hut all night, humming softly until the rooster crowed. From that day on, he began to visit her secretly. He brought her roasted yam wrapped in leaves, water from the stream, and small gifts from the farm. He never touched her waist. He never asked for more than her smile. Slowly, Ugochi's heart softened, though fear still lived inside her. The villagers noticed. They whispered again. Chukwudi is going to end like Obinna. Has he lost his senses? How can he go near that cursed waste? But Chukwudi did not stop. One evening, Ugochi finally spoke her secret. She sat with Chukwudi at the edge of the forest, her voice low and shaking.
I am not like other women. I have no womb, no womanhood. Instead, I carry what belongs to a man. It is my curse. Any man who dares to claim me will suffer.
Chukwudi was silent for a long moment. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Then he reached for her hand. Not her waist, not her body, only her hand.
Ugochi, you are still a woman in my eyes. Your curse does not change your heart. And if the gods punish me for loving, let them punish me. But I will not abandon you.
Ugochi broke down, weeping into his chest. For the first time, she felt the warmth of acceptance. But even as she cried, the wind howled through the trees, and a strange shadow passed quickly over them. That night, the elders gathered again. They had seen enough. This cannot continue, one of the chiefs declared. First Obinna, now Chukwudi is playing with fire. If we do not stop this, the wrath of the gods will fall on all of us. They decided to summon the native doctor, Dibia Okeke, a man feared for his dark powers. 2 nights later, Ugochi awoke to the sound of strange drums outside her hut. Torches burned in the darkness. Men surrounded her home, chanting. And at their center stood Dibia Okeke, his face painted white, his eyes wild. Ugochi, he shouted, the spirits have spoken. You are no maiden of Umwaka. You are an abomination. Tonight we will drag you to the shrine and cleanse this land with your blood. Ugochi trembled. Her heart raced. She grabbed her handkerchief and tied her wrapper tightly. But before the men could touch her, Chukwudi leapt forward, standing in front of her hut. If you take her, you must take me too, he cried. The villagers gasped. Dibia's eyes narrowed. Then you are ready to kapai with her. A chant rose, louder and louder. The flames of the torches shook. The drums boomed, and Ugochi felt something stir inside her. Something dark and dangerous she had fought to keep hidden. Her waist began to move slowly, swaying as if to an unseen rhythm. The earth under her feet trembled. The men staggered back, their torches flickering wildly. Her eyes glowed red again, brighter than ever. No one will take me. No one will touch me. The chanting broke. Screams filled the air. Some men dropped their torches and ran. But Okeki stood firm, raising his staff high. The gods will not allow you to live among us, Chukwudi. At that moment, Chukwudi grabbed her hand. Run, he shouted. Together, they fled into the thick forest, the villagers chasing behind them with cries of fear and anger. The night swallowed them, but the drums and chants echoed after them like hunting spirits. As they ran, Ugochi's tears fell hot and heavy. She knew the truth. Chukwudi loved her, but if he stayed, he would kapai like Obinna. Her secret could not remain hidden forever, and the village would never forgive her. Still, his grip on her hand was strong, stronger than her fear, stronger than her curse. They ran until their legs ached, until the moon hid behind clouds, until the forest seemed to open its arms and hide them. At last, they stopped beside a giant Iroko tree. Ugochi fell to her knees, gasping for breath. Tears rolled down her cheeks.
Chukwudi, why did you do this? You should have left me. Now they will waste us both.
but Chukwudi knelt before her, cupping her face gently.
I would rather die beside you than live without you. Let the whole village call you cursed. In my eyes, you are still my wife.
No, I cannot be your wife. You don't know what I carry. If you touch me,
I do not need to touch you to love you. Ugochi, come with me. Let us leave Umuaka. There are other villages.
We can start anew. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with desperate love. For a long moment, Ugochi stared at him, searching for a crack in his courage. But she found none. Against the warnings in her soul, she nodded slowly. And so, they fled together. Days turned into weeks. They walked through forests, crossed streams, and slept under the stars. Finally, they found a small, abandoned hut in the faraway dishland of Obinagu. There, they began a new life. Chukwudi farmed the land and hunted bushmeat. Ugochi fetched water and cooked. Slowly, she smiled again. For the first time in her life, she felt almost normal, like a woman with a man who truly cared for her. But in the nights, when the moon climbed high and the crickets sang, Ugochi would lie awake, clutching her wrapper tightly. She knew the day would come when Chukwudi would ask for more than food, more than laughter. He would ask for the right of a husband, and then the truth would destroy everything. That day came sooner than she feared. One evening, after a long day of work, Chukwudi entered their hut carrying roasted bushmeat and palm wine. He placed them on the wooden stool and sat beside her. His eyes were gentle but searching. "Ugochi," he said softly, "we have been together for many weeks. I have kept my promise not to force you, but I cannot hide my heart anymore. I want you as my wife, not just in words, but in truth." Ugochi froze. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest. She looked away, her fingers shaking as they pulled at the edges of her wrapper. "No, please, Chukwudi, you must not ask me this." He placed his hand over hers. "Do you not trust me? I love you, Ugochi. Nothing you reveal can turn me away." Tears filled her eyes. She tried to speak, but her lips trembled. Then she stood, turned her back to him, and slowly began to loosen her wrapper. The cloth fell to the ground, and the flickering oil lamp cast shadows across her body. Chukwudi's eyes widened. His breath caught in his throat. What he saw was not what any man expected from a woman. Where her womb should have been, there was none. Instead, hanging heavy and dark, was the private part of a man. The hut grew silent, so silent that even the crickets seemed to stop singing. Ugochi sank to her knees, weeping bitterly. "This is my curse, Chukwudi. Do you see now why men who come near me die? I am no woman. I am an abomination born of the god's anger." For a long, endless moment, Chukwudi did not move. His face was pale, his hands trembling. Then, slowly, he reached out and lifted her chin. "I see your pain, and though my heart trembles, my love for you does not die. I will not leave you, Ugochi. Even if the world calls you cursed, you are mine." His words wrapped around her like warmth. For the first time, she dared to hope. But fate was cruel. That very night, as they lay side by side, drums echoed faintly from the forest. Strange whispers floated in the air. Shadows crept along the walls of the hut. Ugochi sat up, trembling. She knew those sounds. They were not of men, but of spirits. The ancestors of Umuaka had found her. A dark wind burst through the doorway, knocking the oil lamp aside. The flame died. In the pitch darkness, red eyes glowed, and voices hissed, "Abomination! Abomination! Abomination!" Chukwudi leapt to his feet, holding Ugochi close. "Leave her! She has done no harm!" he shouted into the shadows. But the voices only laughed. "She carries what no woman should. She carries the curse of the gods. She cannot live among men." Suddenly, invisible hands grabbed Ugochi's waist, pulling her violently. She screamed, clutching Chukwudi. He pulled back with all his strength, but the spirits were stronger. Her wrapper tore. The secret part she carried shone in the dark with an eerie glow. The spirits howled louder, shaking the hut. Ugochi cried out in terror, her voice breaking. "Chukwudi, let me go. If you hold me, they will kill you too." But he held on tighter, his eyes burning with tears. "Then let us die together." The hut shook like a storm. The roof began to fall. Flames erupted from nowhere. Ugochi's scream mingled with Chukwudi's shout as the shadows swallowed them both. And when the villagers of Obinagu came at dawn, they found nothing but ashes where the hut once stood. No bodies, no bones. Only the faint sound of drums still echoing in the wind. Some said the gods had taken Ugochi back. Others said she still roamed the forests, her wide waist swaying, her dangerous secret hidden, waiting for another man who would dare to love her. But all agreed, love is powerful, but some curses are older than love itself. Moral lesson: pride destroys, but humility saves. Obinna's pride killed him, while Chukwudi's humility and patience showed the strength of genuine love, even though fate remained cruel. The end.